Hey, hope everybody's doing well. What kind of student does everybody wish that they would have? Well, I can tell you my experiences of having lots and lots of students trained up as certified MTIs. And I want to give you some of the characteristics that I enjoyed about them. So here we go. One of the first characteristics that I enjoy is transparency. I love it when my student, regardless of what rank they are, they can be able to put me in my place when I overstep, when they're trying to do something and then in the middle of something, I throw an audible, I throw a change out there. And sometimes it's hard for me personally to let go sometimes. And the transparency. I had a couple of great MTIs like Sergeant Thomas and Sergeant Timbrock who took me into the office and be like, hey, can you not do this? Blah, blah, blah. And it was disrespectful. And I didn't mean it to be disrespectful or anything like that. I just blurted it out. It's a blind spot in my leadership, and I appreciate their transparency because I'm not always going to be right as a trainer. So me showing humility, of course I would submit to that because I want a great working relationship and I wronged them. So that's number one, transparency. Number two is trying to do as much as they can by themselves once they understand something. So I like it when a student asks me lots and lots of questions. Now I will tell you, and I want to be very flat out, if you have a trainer who just says, go look it up, go look it up, go look it up, he's not a trainer. He's a babysitter. A trainer will open up the regs and say, hey, this is what you have to do within this boundary and this scope. And then I would ask as a trainer, hey, what is your preference on attacking this to meet this objective or to exceed this objective? And then we would talk about it. So I can only tell you about my last student, Sergeant Timbrock. He's a go-getter, automatic go-getter. He just wanted to do everything himself, and he told me exactly what he needed to do. I just told him his focus areas that he really needs to pay attention to. So what I would do is, it's always a team effort for me, because when you have two MTIs on one flight, on a shift, it's fantastic. So we would split it up. So I would give him the areas that he needs to focus on and train within those areas, like utility and latrine. Just making sure that those are good, make sure they understand, make sure that he's minimizing every demerit no matter where he goes. And then I would let him, like if I had bed alignment assignment for me personally, or if I had whatever, day room, whatever, he would check my stuff too, and I would check his stuff. He'd be like, hey, Sergeant Linder, you missed this empty wall locker or whatever like that. And I'd be like, I did. Oh, snap. Good catch. Good catch, because I'm a flawed being. And it's nice to have somebody that come behind me to test my proficiency, to make sure that I'm not trash, to make sure that I'm about my words that are coming out of my mouth and direction that I give it to him, that I'm not a hypocrite. So number two is with the transparency. Number two comes making sure that we're on the same page. We're on the same page. A lot of people have this, you're just a student mentality. What? No. He's wearing stripes, for God's sake. He's been in this career field for a while. Come on now. Don't treat people like trash. Have I ever, you probably are asking me right now, well, have I ever jumped in a student's chili? Absolutely have. Absolutely have. When somebody was not progressing well, and I've given them all the tools and everything, I have to use my progressive steps as well. And I also document that in the 623, some of the failures that he was having. Like if he was going to do records check and I was going to go behind him and do the records check, and I found a whole bunch of issues or whatever like that, sitting down, talking with them, and then he would repeat it. Now that's going on 623. My job is to train and to rehabilitate, to make sure that they're successful. So that's coming to some of the things that I do. So like I said, transparency is so key. Number two, being on the same page. Number three, being able to trust each other. So my being on the same page doesn't always mean trust. So trusting each other, trusting me that I'm going to give him the right information and lead him to the regulations. Because that's what I think that I need to do, and making sure that he knows that I am comfortable enough in this job where I can set him up for success. To the law of primacy, right? The first thing that is taught is the thing that's most remembered. So I got to make sure that I'm up on those regs, and when I'm giving him the regs or whatever like that, now I do tell him to trust me, but sometimes we can't just look it up, and I try to get in the habit of, when we have downtime, to look it up to make sure that he knows that I know. So I always lead that effort. That's my responsibility, not his. I don't want him looking for hours when I can show him in 3 minutes. It's easy. And there have been times where he's right. I overlooked something, or the regs has changed, because remember, I'm a returning MTI. And things that were normal back in those days is not normal now. So it helps me stay engaged. It helps me stay within the regs. And then knowing that I have gone over application enough where I can just let him go. Now, I will tell you a story that Sergeant Timbrock and we were teaching open ranks, and he seen me teach open ranks from beginning to end, with him coming in there and, helping me with the corrections or whatever like that, but never really leading it. So finally, he was leading it, and I asked Brother Flight if I could teach them open ranks, and then we have a little open ranks, competition. So Sergeant Timbrock felt confident, but during the instruction, he was forgetting some key information. So some trainers were helping him to try to remember. And while I was over there making Brother Flight look better than our integrated flight, which was like, it is what it is. Experience and watching my student kind of battle a little bit is healthy. Now, not to the point where he's battling so the flight does not understand, but also showing him that he needs a little bit more practice, a little bit more time. But he had such motivation to do the best job he can. That's the only thing that I could ever hope for. And he realized that it wasn't as good as mine because he was forgetting some of the techniques, which is fine. I don't expect him to be able to grab all of it. But I appreciate the fact that he struggled and he was willing to struggle. But I never let him do it at the expense of the flight. So I always make sure that he understands that he's able to regurgitate. It's just sometimes in the midst of it, you just forget. So he fixed himself. He learned a little bit of the things that I did. That he was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, that would have helped. So 3, being able to apply and trust each other to do what's right by the flight, because I will never throw anybody in without giving them application tools. The MTI Corps typically, and it's just me, my opinion, the trainer says, hey, just go do it, or whatever like that. And I guess you can do that with certain tasks, but not with tasks that require a lot of instruction, a lot of practice, like formation of the flight. Even rolling a t-shirt, you need to make sure that the student understands and can duplicate what you could do. Me personally, if you can't roll a shirt as a trainer with 0 demerits, you and your student need to work on that together as a team, so that he knows how to do a depth evaluation properly. So if you can't do it with 0 demerits, you might want to practice. If your trainer can't do it, then he needs to practice and he needs to get his craft up. Okay, enough about that. A student that wants to come to work will be number 4. I love when a student just wants to be at work, that wants to learn, that's proactive with the weekly activity schedule, that asks questions, because when we're throwing the turnover in, I want him to ask me questions. And I'm not just going over turnover for the night. I'm going over what we're doing tomorrow. And we're writing on the WASP. We're writing to the right of Saturday, to the left of Sunday. Making sure that everything is accounted for according to the WAC. So we put the WAC on the WASP. And making sure that things are lined up so that we don't have a training hiccup where we're embarrassing the squadron. So students that are kind of saying, okay, we're doing this here. Okay, I want to look in the WAC to see, and they're just doing it on their own. Okay, I need to look at the WAC on this. And I'm like, beautiful. You know where the WAC is? Beautiful. I just let him do his thing. So just that motivation, I want to come to work. And then for me, finally, a student that likes to take care of their physical appearance. A student that takes care of themselves and goes to the gym while the flight's in class, or goes to the gym before their shift, or whatever like that, it's going to help them on those road runs. It's going to help them be a leader at PT. It's going to help show those trainees what they need to do to get better and better and better. So I personally like when my students are physically fit or physically fit to get to that next level of fitness. So those are my top characteristics and traits that I want my students to have before they even come in. So I hope this helps, especially for people that are MTIS. And you're gonna come. Every trainer is built different, and every student is built different. But if you have these characteristics, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to be fire as soon as you get your first flight. Don't be scared to get your first flight and to fail at certain things. As long as you care, as long as you communicate with your section chief, as long as you invite people into your dormitory as much as you can, the first, second, third flight. I will tell you that my instructor supervisor was in my dorm all the time, not to find problems, but to make sure that I'm setting the flight up for success. Because the flight is your product of how well you teach. So don't forget that. And when you're overwhelmed, say something, because you're probably working too hard anyway. So just keep this in mind. Take it easy. I pray that all is well with everybody. Take care.